Hey everyone, my name's Zango, and in this video we are attempting a Pokémon Moon hardcore Nuzlocke with only dark type Pokémon. I'm going to be putting the rules I use for this run in the description of this video, and with that being said, let's talk about dark types. The dark types that I'm going to have access to in this run are actually really good, and I can get a whopping 13 different Pokémon in this run. Pretty much all of these Pokémon have a really good base stat total and give me great access to HM and TM moves that allows for some good type coverage. Even with these Pokemon being really good, I'm destined to lose a few as there's a Fighting Elite Four member and a Fighting type Grand Trial. Not to mention, I'm weak to both Bug and Fairy types, which cover a lot of Pokemon in this generation. Before I experience any of the Pokemon in this generation, I actually have to start the game first, so I name myself Zango and make my way to go get my first Pokemon. I spend about an hour going through cutscenes, and when I finally get through it all, I choose my starter, Litten. After I get my first real dark type of this run, I can't use Litten anymore until level 34, but that's still fine as Incineroar is a really good Pokemon and he should really help me out a ton in this run. Once I get Litten, I name him Nemesis and then I start a quick grind so I can challenge Hau. Hau and his Pikachu are no match for Nemesis, and after I take him out, I then go onto the next route where I'm actually able to catch my first Pokemon. The Pokemon I end up catching here is a Rattata, and after I catch him, I name him Nocturnal. After that catch, I head to the Pokemon Trainer School where I'm actually able to catch another Pokemon. The Pokemon I catch here is Grimer, and since Grimer isn't weak to Fighting, Bug, or Fairy types, she should be key in helping me win this run. Once I've caught my Grimer, I name her Sewage, and after I do that, I challenge the rest of the Trainer School. Nobody in this place is actually difficult, and once I finish up with them, I make my way into the next city. Here, I do a ton more story, and I'm actually able to catch another Pokemon. The Pokemon I catch in this place is Meowth, and I end up naming him Brute. After I catch Brute, I grind for a little bit and then head to challenge Lima. Lima leads the battle with Yungoos as I lead with Brute. I go for a fake out on the first turn, flinching Yungoos, as on the next turn I go for a bite, flinching Yungoos once more. I then go for another bite, flinching Yungoos a third time as I go for one final bite, finishing off the Yungoos. With Yungoos down, Lima then sends out his next Pokemon, Smeargle. Smeargle in the first turn goes for a tackle, doing a ton of damage and getting a crit as I go for a bite, not really doing that much. Because I was brought so low by the tackle, I'm forced to switch into Sewage. Sewage gets hit for a lot of damage on the switch in and on the turn after, and thankfully after that, that's the final time I take damage as I go for a bite, finishing off the Smeargle. With Lima down, I go do some story with Team Skull, and after I do that, I head to challenge my first Totem. The Totem I have to fight here is Raticate, so I decide to lead the battle with Sewage. Raticate tries to lower my defense with Tail Whip, but thankfully it's nullified as I go for a Harden. Raticate then brings in his ally Pokemon, and on the next turn he goes for another Tail Whip as I go for a Poison Gas. At this point, my defense is getting dangerously low as Raticate goes for another Tail Whip as I go for a Harden. Rattata then hits me with a Tackle, doing a lot of damage, bringing me down to 27. At this point, I know my time is running out as Raticate goes for a Tail Whip and Rattata goes for a Focus Energy. On that same turn, I go for a Poison Gas, poisoning the Raticate, and at this point I'm down 3 defense, so I'm forced to switch. I make the decision to switch into Brute as Rattata misses a quick attack and Raticate hits me with a Tackle. On the next turn I go for a Fake Out, flinching Raticate as I get hit by a Tackle, bringing me down to 14 HP. Because I'm so low, I make the decision to switch into Nocturnal, and when I do, I get hit by a Scary Face and a critical hit Tackle, bringing me down to 15. Because I'm so low, I decide I need to get rid of Rattata, so I go for a quick attack, one-shotting the Rattata's remaining health. Raticate then hits me with a Tackle, bringing me down to 5 HP as I then switch into Sewage and finish off Raticate's remaining health, winning me my first trial of the run. After that trial, I'm then able to move on to the next route where I'm able to catch my next Pokemon, Vullaby. I catch Vullaby and give it the most creative name I can think of, Vulture. I've then gotta help Lily because she's a bad Pokemon trainer, and after I do that, I then have to battle Hau. This battle goes really easily as Sewage sweeps the team, and after I do that, I then go to challenge my first Grand Trial of the run. Hala leads the battle with Mankey as I lead with Vulture. Mankey goes for a Karate Chop, doing a bit of damage as I go for a Pluck, one-shotting the Mankey. From here, Makahita is next as I decide to switch into Sewage. Makahita hits me with a Fake Out on the switch in, and then after that we swap attacks for about 4 turns. After those 4 turns, I then switch back into Vulture. I get hit with an Arm Thrust on the switch in, not doing much damage as I then go for a Pluck, finishing off the Makahita. With that, Hala then sends out his final Pokemon, Crabrawler. I go for a Pluck, doing just above half as Crabrawler hits me with his Z move, All Out Pummeling. It brings me down to 11 HP as I go for a Fury Attack on the next turn rather than another Pluck. I'm going to go for a Fury Attack. He didn't use a Super Potion yet, and another Pluck is going to bring him down into the light red, or into the red, so he's going to heal and then I have no chance. I got to go for Yeah, I'm gonna go for Fury attack. The Fury attack I go for brings him low enough so in the next turn I'm able to kill him with a block, winning me my first grand trial of this run. After I finish that trial, me, Lily, and Hao head to Akala Island. While we're here, I do a ton of story and I end up making my way onto Route 4. On Route 4, there's really nothing for me other than a few berries, and after I get them, I make my way to challenge my rival. Once again, he poses no threat at all as I defeat his team with relatively no issues and I head to battle Gladion. Gladion only has Type Null and Zubat, and since Zubat kinda sucks, I take him out with a few shots as he sends in his Type Null next and I Poison Stall it. After defeating Gladion in what could have been the most lame way possible, I make my way to start my water trial. The totem for this trial is Wishy-Washy, so I decide to lead with Sewage. First things first, I decide to go for a Poison Fang as Wishy-Washy goes for a Growl and then calls in his SOS Pokemon. Wishy-Washy then takes damage due to poison, and at this point, honestly, the battle's kind of a wrap. Due to the fact that Wishy-Washy likes to spam Growl, and the fact that I got off my poison earlier in this battle, I'm easily able to do a lot of damage really quickly as I'm finally forced to switch out into Vulture. Immediately when I switch in with Vulture, Wishy-Washy dies, and all that's left is the SOS Pokemon. This SOS Pokemon is simply a base form Wishy-Washy, so it's an easy 2-shot with Pluck as this allows me to win my second trial of the run. With that trial finished up, I then head down to Route 6 where I deal with Team Skull for a little bit and then head into Royal Avenue. Right after I get onto Royal Avenue, I head right back out and go onto Route 6 where I'm able to catch my next Pokemon, Eevee. I name my Eevee Void and then I head back into Royal Avenue where I start my quadruple battle. I end up not losing a Pokemon in this battle, and after I finish that up, I head onto Route 7 where I'm able to fight my next Totem Pokemon. Before I start that battle though, I run around for about 15 minutes to raise my friendship so I can evolve Meowth and Eevee. Once I evolve both of those Pokemon, I challenge Totem Salazzle. I lead this Totem battle with Nocturnal as on the first turn, Salazzle goes for a Torment as I go for a Hyper Fang, doing about a third. Salazzle then calls down her SOS Pokemon as on the next turn she goes for a Toxic as I go for a Bite, not really doing that much. Salandit then goes for a Taunt, making it so I can't use any setup moves. On the next turn, I then get hit with a Venom Drench, lowering my attack and special attack as I go for a Hyper Fang, almost one-shotting Salazzle's remaining health. Salandit then goes for a Venoshock, bringing me down to 7 HP with the toxic damage, and at this point I'm forced to switch. I make this switch into Sewage, who doesn't get hit for much damage on the switch in, and on the next turn I go for a Bite, finishing off the Salazzle's remaining health. Only the SOS Pokemon Salandit remains as I'm able to take him out with a Rock Tomb and Bite combo, winning me my third trial of the run. After that trial, I move on to Route 8 where I get the TM for Flame Charge. This TM will be important later in the game, but not until after I get Incineroar, so I head on to the next trial. Once at my next trial site, I make a beautiful concoction of herbs and spices, and after I do that, I fight Totem Lurantis. This Totem battle isn't difficult at all due to Sewage poisoning Lurantis right in the beginning of the battle. Like I said before, Lurantis isn't that difficult after the poison, so once I beat her down, I win myself my fourth trial of the run. After that trial, I do a lot of story and then make my way through Diglett Tunnel. Once I get through Diglett Tunnel, I challenge Team Skull, beat them, and after I do that, I get ready to challenge Olivia for the second grand trial of this run. Olivia leads the battle with Nosepass, as I lead with Nocturnal. I go for a Crunch on the first turn, not doing much, but lowering Nosepass's defense as I get hit with a Thunder Wave. On the next turn, I go for another Crunch as I get hit by a Rock Slide, really not doing that much damage. I then go for one final Crunch, finishing off the Nosepass as Olivia brings out her next Pokemon, Bulldor. I go for a Grass Knot, doing a ton of damage to Bulldor as he hits me with a Headbutt, really not doing that much. I then go for a Crunch, bring Bulldor down into the red as I get hit with a Headbutt, bringing me down to 21 HP. Olivia heals in the next turn as I go for another Grass Knot, getting a critical hit and bring Bulldor down into the red once more. With Bulldor pretty low, I decide to switch into Sewage. Sewage gets hit for a little damage on the switch in, and thankfully in the next turn, I'm able to take out Bulldor with a single bite as Olivia sends out her final Pokemon, Lycanroc. Since I know Lycanroc is going to go for Continental Crush, I decide to go for a Protect. I shield myself from most of the damage as it only brings me down to 44 HP as on the next turn Lycanroc goes for a Rock Throw. Rock Throw brings me down to 8 HP as I eat a Citrus Berry and I go for a Poison Fang, poisoning the Lycanroc. With Grimer being so low, I decide to switch into Void. Void doesn't take any damage on the switch in, and on the turn after, I get hit with a Rock Throw, bringing me down to 63 as I go for a Bite, bringing Lycanroc to just above half. On the next turn, I get hit with another Rock Throw, bringing me down to 36 HP as I go for an Assurance, bringing Lycanroc down to about a third. Because I don't want to risk a crit, I decide to switch out into Brute and go for a Fake Out and Bite combo, winning me my second grand trial of this run. After that grand trial, I head over to the Aether Foundation where I battle an Ultra Beast. The Ultra Beast I battle here really isn't an issue at all, and after I finish up with that, I head to Ula Ula Island. Immediately when I get to the island, I'm forced into a rival battle with Hao. This rival battle is the exact same as every single one we've had, and after I beat him, I make my way to the next area of the run. Once here, I talk to Professor Kukui for a little bit, and after I do that, I talk to Lily in the library. After I finish up all of that, I deal with Team Skull in front of the bus stop, and I make my way up Mount Hokalane. Once I make it to the top of the mountain, I look at the Elite Four, and I get ready to challenge the 5th totem of this run. For this battle with Totem Vikavolt, I decided I wanted to lead the battle with Brute. I go for a fake out on the first turn, flinching the Vikavolt as Vikavolt calls down his SOS Pokemon, and then I decide to go for a Protect. This Protect basically just spares me one more turn as I go for a Swift, and it does not really any damage to either Charger Bug or Vikavolt. I then get hit by a Bug Bite from Vikavolt, bringing me down to 32 HP as I get paralyzed by a Thunder Wave. At this point, Brute is paralyzed, so he's not even faster anymore, and I don't have any other uses for him in this run, so I decide to sack him and switch into Sewage. Sewage gets hit by a Spark and avoids a Thunder Wave as I go for a Poison Fang on Vikavolt, poisoning him in the process. With that poison setup, I really don't want to risk a crit, so I decide to switch into Umbreon. Umbreon gets hit for some pretty big damage on the switch in and gets paralyzed, so on the next turn, I'm forced to go for a Protect. I Protect from both Vikavolt and Charjabug, so Vikavolt takes even more poison damage, and on the next turn, I go for a Quick Attack. Quick Attack brings Vikavolt down into the low red as I get hit by Vikavolt and Charjabug, bringing me down to 7 HP. Vikavolt's then left with 1 HP after the poison damage, and I'm in a really tough position. I could go for a Protect here, but if I get paralyzed, I lose Umbreon in this run. On the other hand, if I switch out, I don't know if anybody I switch into can take any damage from Vikavolt or Charjabug. With that being said, I decide I'm going to take a risk, and I go for a Protect. Please, Void, don't get paralyzed. Just do not get paralyzed. That's all please. Let's go. Whew. Whew. There's Vikavolt. Vikavolt's down. With Vikavolt down, Charjabug's an easy kill with Sewage, and with that, I win my 5th Totem battle. After that Totem battle, I then have my first fight with Guzma. Guzma leads the battle with Glycopod as I lead with Sewage. Sewage immediately gets hit by a First Impression, bringing me down to 33 HP as I go for a Poison Fang, not poisoning. With Sewage being at 33 HP, I'm very scared, so I decide to switch into Void. Void gets hit for a ton of damage on the switch in, and on the turn after, I go for a Psychic, bring Glycopod down to about a third as he goes for a Sword Stance. I then go for another Psychic, activating Glycopod's emergency exit. He decides to switch into Ariados as I go for a Psychic on the next turn, bringing Ariados down to about half. I then get brought down to 8 HP with a Fell Stinger as I'm able to take out Ariados on the next turn with another Psychic as Glycopod comes back out. Glycopod is 100% going to go for a First Impression, so I decide to switch into Vulture. Vulture tanks it, but not very well as it brings me down to 32 HP. Because I'm so low, I decide to switch into Raticate, who gets hit for a ton of damage by a Razor Shell on the switch in, and on the next turn I go for a Protect just to stall for a bit. Sadly, at this point with nobody else to switch into, I decide I'm gonna have to sack Nocturnal. I go for a Hyper Fang, not killing Glycopod, as Glycopod goes for a Razor Shell and actually misses. Oh my gosh, dude, that was so close. Oh my god. With that amazing luck on my side, I decide to go for a Sucker Punch, finishing off the Glycopod and winning me my battle against Guzma. With that battle behind us, I move on to Route 11 where I'm able to catch my next Pokemon, Pancham. I catch Pancham pretty easily and name her Luna as I then make my way onto the next route. Hapu then gives me a Ride Pager, and after I get that, I make my way to the Ghost Trial. Before the trial though, I talk to Hao and Gladion one final time, and then I evolve my Torracat into an Incineroar. Once I do that, I finally challenge the 6th trial of this run. The totem Pokemon in this trial is Mimikyu, so I decide to lead with my new Pokemon, Incineroar. On paper, this battle should have been easily the most difficult of this run, and actually it ends up being super easy. On the first turn, Mimikyu misses with Play Rough as I set up with a Bulk Up. Mimikyu then summons her SOS Pokemon, and then she decides to go for a Mimic on the next turn as Haunter puts me to sleep with a Hypnosis. Thankfully, before the battle started, I gave Nemesis a Chesto Berry, so I wake up immediately and one-shot the Haunter with a Darkest Lariat. Now, at this point, the only Pokemon left is Mimikyu, so I decide to go for a Shadow Claw as I get hit with a Play Rough, really not doing that much damage. I then break Mimikyu's disguise, and on the next turn, I go for a Shadow Claw that actually gets a crit, and I end up one-shotting Mimikyu. I think this might, I don't think it'll be a one-shot, but it'll be close. Oh, a critical hit, one-shot, baby. Let's go. Let's go. This one-shot secures my victory in what could have been one of the hardest trials of this run. After that trial, I then head to Haina Desert where I'm able to catch my next Pokemon, Sandile. Sandile evolves into Krokorok, then Crocodile, and Crocodile is a really welcomed addition to this team. With that being said, I catch my Sandile and I decide to name him Bacon. With that finished up, I go to deal with some of Team Skull and Guzma. To be honest with you, Guzma isn't nearly as hard as he was before, especially considering that I have such a better team than I did in the past. After I defeat Guzma, I then find out Lily's been basically kidnapped and I have to go save her. Before I do that though, I have to battle Gladion and it's a complete sweep on my part as I deal with his Golbat, Sneasel, and Type Null really easily. I have to do one more thing before heading to the Aether Paradise, and that's challenging Nanu in the third grand trial of this run. He leads the battle with Sableye as I lead with Luna. Sableye goes for a fake out, flinching me, and then on the next turn I go for a bulk up as Sableye doesn't hit me for much damage with a Shadow Ball. I then set up another bulk up on the next turn as Sableye hits me with another Shadow Ball, only bringing me down to 66 HP. With 2 bulk ups set up, I was kinda hoping 2 bullet punches would kill, but I'm completely incorrect as I go for 1 bullet punch, only bringing Sableye down to above half. Thankfully, on the next turn, I end up getting a critical hit bullet punch, finishing off the Sableye. With Sableye down, Nanu then sends in his next Pokemon, Krokorok. Krokorok hits me with an Earthquake, bringing me down to 12 HP as I'm able to one-shot Krokorok with a critical hit Brick Break. I definitely would have one-shotted without the crit, so it really didn't matter, as after I kill Krokorok, Nanu sends in his final Pokemon, Persian. I go for a Protect, hoping he was going to go for a Z move, but he decides not to as he goes for a Power Gem. I definitely can't stay in with Luna anymore, so I decide to switch into Sewage. On the switch, I don't really take that much damage, and on the following turns, I'm able to take out Persian with a few Brick Breaks, winning me my third grand trial of this run. Once I finally finish everything I need to do, I finally head to the Aether Paradise. When I get here, I have to go through countless Aether Foundation members, and none of them are hard since most of them have Psychic types. Finally, after I get through all of them, I end up making it to Guzma. Guzma leads the battle with Glycopod as I lead with Sewage. I go for a Protect, assuming Guzma is going to use First Impression, but I'm completely incorrect as he goes for a Swords Dance. I go for a Crunch on the next turn, not doing enough to activate Emergency Exit, but thankfully I don't need to as Guzma goes for another Swords Dance. Thankfully he's slower than me, so I'm able to get off another Crunch, activating Glycopod's ability, Emergency Exit. With Glycopod coming out of the battle, Guzma then sends in his next Pokemon, Masquerain. Masquerain goes for a Bug Buzz, hitting me pretty hard as I go for a Poison Jab, doing about a third. On the next turn, I then get hit really hard again by another Bug Buzz as I go for a Poison Jab, doing about the same. At this point, I'm too low and too slow to really do anything, so I need a free switch and I decide to sack Nocturnal. Nocturnal's sacrifice was much needed as it gives me a free switch into Nemesis. As soon as I switch into Nemesis, I get hit extremely hard with a Bug Buzz as I try and set up with a Bulk Up. On the next turn, I get hit by another Bug Buzz, bringing me down to 2 HP as I finish off Masquerain with a Flame Charge. After this, Glycopod comes out and I have a decision to make. You know, I gotta hope. He does have First Impression, which will kill, and it goes first, but he also has Razor Shell, which is super effective, so I think he's going to go for the super effective move. There it is. He does. He does go for the super effective move. Pinsir next. Okay. Woo-hoo-hoo. With Pinsir out and me being +1 attack, I'm easily able to take him out with a single Flame Charge as Guzma sends in his final Pokemon, Ariados. Just to play it safe, I switch into Luna and I go for 2 crunches, finishing off the Ariados and winning me my battle against Guzma. With Guzma finished up, I talk to Lily for a little bit and then I challenge Lusamine. Lusamine leads the battle with Clefable as I lead with Sewage. Clefable hits me with a Moonblast, not really doing too much damage as I go for a Poison Jab, bringing Clefable down to about a 4. Clefable then goes for a Metronome, not doing too much damage as I go for another Poison Jab, finishing off Clefable. With Clefable down, Lusamine sends in her next Pokemon, Milotic. Milotic goes for a Safeguard as I go for a Poison Jab, doing just above half. I then Protect on the next turn as Milotic goes for a Hydro Pump, and on the following turn I decide to switch into Void. Hydro Pump doesn't do that much damage to me as on the next turn I get hit with another Hydro Pump and I decide to go for a Psychic. I then Protect from another Hydro Pump on the next turn and I need to switch since Void is getting pretty low. I make the switch into Luna, who takes the hit really nicely, and at this point, Milotic doesn't have any Hydro Pump PP left. This means that I'm free to switch into Nemesis, and I'm free to set up with all of my moves. First, I go for a Flame Charge, only doing a little bit of damage and raising my speed, as I then set up 6 consecutive bulk ups. Once I set up all of those bulk ups, I raise my speed one more by going for a Flame Charge and finishing off my Lodic. With my Lodic down, Bearware comes out next, and I'm able to one-shot with a single Brick Break. Miss Magius then comes out next, and shockingly enough, she's actually faster than me. She hits me really hard with a Shadow Ball, bringing me down to 25 HP as I finish her off with a single Flame Charge. Lusamine then sends in her final Pokemon, Lilligant. I'm at plus 3 speed at this point, and there's no shot I don't one-shot, so I decide to go for another Flame Charge, finishing off Lilligant and winning me my battle against Lusamine. After that Lusamine battle, I do a little bit of story with Lily, and then I head to Pony Island. Once I get to this island, I do a ton of story, and finally when I get through all of that, I challenge Team Skull. Team Skull gets swept pretty easily, and after this, I'm almost ready to challenge my final Grand Trial of this run. The one thing I do before starting this final Grand Trial is I catch a Sharpedo. I catch Sharpedo and name her Tiger, and after that, I'm ready to challenge Hapu. Hapu leads the battle with Dugtrio as I lead with Tiger. I go for an Aqua Jet, one-shotting Dugtrio as Hapu sends out her next Pokemon, Mudsdale. I go for a Protect, hoping the Z-move's gonna come out, but I'm wrong as Hapu goes for an Earthquake. On the next turn, I have a big decision to make considering Tiger can get one-shotted by every single one of Mudsdale's moves. I guess I go for an Ice Fang. Hopefully it freezes maybe, I guess. Oh my gosh, let's go! Perfect! Ooh! Go for a Scald? That does enough! Let's go! After I get pretty lucky there, Flygon comes out next and goes for an Earth Power. Earth Power brings Tiger down to 17 HP as I'm able to one-shot Flygon with a single Ice Fang. After Flygon goes down, Hapu then sends out her final Pokemon, Gastrodon. Since Tiger is pretty weak, I decide to make a switch into Luna. Luna doesn't get hit for much damage on the switch in, and on the turn after, I decide to go for a Parting Shot. This in turn allows me to switch out, so I decide to move into Void. Void can't really do that much damage, so I'm forced to switch into 2 other Pokemon before finally finishing off Gastrodon and winning myself my 4th Grand Trial of this run. After that trial, I go to catch my next Pokemon, Murkrow. Once I catch Murkrow, I name him Lurker, and after that, I move on to challenge my final trial. I'm not really going to go over this trial, mainly because I'm a way higher level than Como-O is, and it lasted really long, so it's really not important. In the battle, I only use Sewage, Lurker, and Bacon, and after I finish off Como-O, I win my 7th and final trial of this run. After I finish that, I then do some story with Lily, and then I make it to Ultra Space. Once I'm in Ultra Space, I talk to Guzma for a minute, and then I challenge Lusamine. Lusamine leads with Clefable as I lead with Sewage. On the first turn, Clefable sets up a Cosmic Power as I go for a Poison Jab, doing a little bit above half. Clefable then hits me with a critical hit Moonblast as I go for another Poison Jab, not killing Clefable. Clefable then sets up a Moonlight as I go for another Poison Jab, bring Clefable into the red once more. On the next turn, Clefable then goes for another Moonlight, but this time I go for a Crunch, lowering Clefable's defense. I then get a critical hit Poison Jab on the next turn, finishing off Clefable as my Lodic comes out next. With my Lodic out, I decide to do the same thing I did last time, wasting all of her Hydro Pump PP. This strategy works again as I switch into Nemesis and set up 6 consecutive bulk ups and 3 consecutive flame charges. This means I'm easily able to take out my Lodic, and with that, Lusamine sends in her next Pokemon, Beware. Shockingly enough, I'm not able to one-shot with a single Brick Break, but thankfully I don't have to as Beware decides to go for a Pain Split. After that scare, I'm then able to take out Beware and the rest of Lusamine's team with just Nemesis. Once I'm finished up with that, I do a little bit more story and I then head to the Elite Four. Before I start my Elite Four battles, I have to battle Gladion and Hau. Prior to starting my Gladion fight, I have to catch another Pokemon. The Pokemon I catch is an Absol who I name Jealousy. Once I catch Absol, I start my fight with Gladion. Gladion leads the battle with Crobat as I lead with Bacon. Crobat goes for an Acrobatics, bringing me down to 111 as I go for a Crunch, bringing Crobat down to half. Gladion then decides to switch into Lucario, who doesn't get hit for much damage on the switch in. Thankfully, I have Earthquake on Bacon, so I'm easily able to one-shot Lucario on the next turn as Silvally comes out next. I'm really scared of Silvally, so I decide to switch into Void. Immediately when I switch into Void, I get hit for some damage, and on the next turn, I get hit with an X-Scissor, bringing me down to 57 HP. On that same turn, I go for a Bite, hitting Silvally for not much damage at all. At this point, it's Jealousy's time to shine as I send her in, and she gets one-shotted by a single X-Scissor. With my free switch, I decide to move into Sewage. Sewage then takes a lot of damage on the following turns, but I do end up getting Silvally really low and poisoned. Thankfully, with Silvally really low and poisoned, I'm simply able to go for a Protect, finishing off Silvally due to poison damage. Gladion then sends in Crobat next, and with Crobat out, I need to switch into Vulture. Crobat can barely do any damage to Vulture, so I'm easily able to take him out as Weavile comes out last. Weavile is no match for Nemesis, and with that, I win my battle against Gladion. After that Gladion battle, I move further onto the route where I'm able to catch my next Pokemon, Sneasel. I catch my Sneasel and name her Sierra, and after I finish that up, I move on to the Pokemon League. Once I'm here, I grind up my team for a little bit and I challenge Hao. His team is no match for mine as I defeat his team with no issues, and after I do that, I make my way to the Elite Four. With my team fully geared up and all of my Pokemon pretty much to the level cap, I decide to start my Elite Four journey with Acerola. She leads the battle with Sableye as I lead with Sierra. Sableye goes for a Fake Out on the first turn, flinching me as on the next turn I go for a Swords Dance and Sableye sets up a Confuse Ray. Thankfully, on the first turn, I'm able to get through the Confuse Ray and I'm able to one-shot Sableye as Dhelmise comes out next. Thankfully, I don't hit myself with Confusion and I end up one-shotting Dhelmise with a single Night Slash. After that, Acerola sends out Palossand next and I'm able to one-shot again, getting through my Confusion
3 in a
with
row
another
and
Night
crit.
Slash. After this crazy luck so far, Frostlass comes out, and I'm able to get through the Confusion once more, this time snapping out of it as I one-shot with a single Night Slash. Once I finish up with all that, Drifloon comes out last, and I'm able to one-shot with another Night Slash, winning me my first Elite Four battle. After that first victory, I decide to challenge Olivia next in my second Elite Four battle. Olivia leads the battle with Relicanth as I lead with Bacon. I go for a Bulk Up on the first turn, and sadly I get hit with a Yawn, so I'm forced to switch on the next turn. I switch into Void, who gets hit with a Hydro Pump pretty hard, and on the next turn I get hit with another Hydro Pump and I set up a Toxic. On the following turn I go for a Protect, doing a little bit more damage with Toxic, and on the next turn after that I go for a Bite, not really doing that much damage. On that same turn I was hit with a Yawn, so it forces me to switch into Sierra. On the switch in, Sierra gets hit by a Yawn, so this forces me to switch again, this time into Bacon. Bacon gets hit by an Ancient Power, and on that same turn Relicanth goes down to its Toxic damage. With that Pokemon down, Olivia sends in her next Pokemon, Carbink. Carbink goes down to a single Earthquake from Bacon, and with that, Olivia sends in her next Pokemon, Golem. I bring Golem to 1 HP with a single Earthquake as I get hit really hard, bringing me down to 92 HP. Because I know Olivia is going to heal, I decide to set up a Bulk Up, and on the next turn, I go for a Crunch just to get out of Sturdy range. I then get hit by a Steamroll, bringing me down to 42 HP as I finish off Golem on the next turn with an Earthquake as Lycanroc comes out next. Lycanroc is then one-shotted by a single Earthquake, and after that, Olivia sends out Probopass. I go for a Crunch to get out of Sturdy range, and then Probopass goes for a Sandstorm. Olivia then heals as I'm able to finish off Probopass with 2 more Crunches, winning me my second Elite Four battle. After that second victory, I decide I want to challenge Kahili next in my third Elite Four battle. She leads the battle with Skarmory as I lead with Nemesis. Because Skarmory can barely damage me, I decide to set up 6 consecutive Bulk Ups and I go for 2 Flame Charges, finishing off Skarmory. With my attack and defense both up 6 and my speed up 2, I'm easily able to wipe the rest of Kahili's team with just Nemesis alone. With Kahili's final Pokemon Crobat going down in one shot, that ensures my victory in my third Elite Four battle. This Deathless Elite Four run is definitely going to change as now I have to challenge Fighting type Elite Four member Hala. Hala leads the battle with Hariyama as I lead with Vulture. Hariyama's got Fake Out, so I go for a Protect on the first turn, as on the next turn I go for a Brave Bird, one-shotting Hariyama. With Hariyama down, Hala then sends in his next Pokemon, Crabominable. For this, I'm super scared, so I decide to go for a U-turn switch into Void. Void gets nearly one-shotted by an Ice Hammer on the switch in, and on the next turn I decide to go for a Psychic as I get hit with a close combat, ending Void. Because of Void Sacrifice, I'm able to freely switch into Vulture, where I go for a Protect to regain a little bit of leftovers HP, then I go for a Brave Bird, finishing off Crabominable's remaining health. With that, Primeape comes out next, and I decide to go for a Protect just to gain a little bit more HP. On the next turn, I get hit really hard with a Cross Chop, and thankfully I go for a Roost, regaining pretty much all of my HP back. I then go for one more Protect, as on the following turn, I go for a Brave Bird, finishing off Primeape in one shot. With Primeape down, Hala then sends out Beware, and I go for a Protect on the first turn to regain a little bit of HP. I then go for a Roost, bring me back up to full, as I get hit by a Hammer-On, bringing me down to 17 HP. With my health extremely low at this point, I decide to go for one more Protect, and then I go for a Brave Bird. The Brave Bird does almost no damage at all as I then get finished off by a Hammer Arm, and I'm then forced to switch into Bacon. Maybe I go for a Bulk Up and then tank it. I gotta go for a Bulk Up. I'll go for a Bulk Up, hopefully tank it. No light. Let's go. Let's go. Honestly, I'm setting up another Bulk Up. There's no reason for me not to set up another Bulk Up here. I'm in perfect position to do so. Again! Let's go! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! One more Bulk Up. Come on. Let me set up one more. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Now what do I do? I want to go for an Earthquake. Is that bad? I want to go for an Earthquake. I'm at +3. Earthquake. Brick Break scares me so much. I'm going for an Earthquake. Let's go. Moxie brings me up another attack stat. I think that's just a one-shot with Earthquake. It's gotta be, right? There it is. There it is. I only lost 2 Pokemon. Are you serious? Holy crap. With Hala finished off, I then move on to fight my final battle of this run with Professor Kukui. He leads the battle with Lycanroc as I lead with Bacon. Lycanroc sets up with a Stealth Rock as I go for an Earthquake, one-shotting him in the process. With Lycanroc going down, Kukui then sends in his next Pokemon, Ninetales. Because Ninetales has Blizzard, I'm scared, so I decide to switch into Sewage. Sewage gets hit for a lot of damage on the switch in, and on the next turn I go for a Protect just to regain a little bit of HP. Ninetales then goes for a Safeguard as I go for a Poison Jab, bringing Ninetales down to 1 HP. Kukui heals as I then go for another Poison Jab, finishing off Ninetales. With Ninetales down, Kukui then sends out his next Pokemon, Snorlax. I go for a Protect on the first turn to heal, as on the next turn I go for a Crunch, not really doing much as I get hit for a ton of damage with high horsepower. I then go for another Protect, healing up just a bit more, as on the following turn Safeguard runs out, so I decide to go for a Poison Jab. I manage to hit and poison as Snorlax goes for a high horsepower, finishing off Sewage. With Sewage down, I decide to switch into Bacon, and I decide to go for a Bulk Up. On that same turn, I get hit by a critical hit Body Slam, bringing me down to 72 HP. Snorlax then heals with a Full Restore as I go for a Bulk Up once more. On the next turn, I decide to go for a Protect just to regain a little bit more HP, and then I decide to go for an Earthquake. Earthquake does well over half, brings Snorlax into the red as I get hit by a Body Slam, bringing me down to 80 HP after the leftovers. I then go for one final Protect, and on the next turn, I finish off Snorlax with a Rock Slide as Kukui sends out his next Pokemon, Primarina. Primarina is then taken out by a single Earthquake as Kukui is forced to send out his next Pokemon, Braviary. On the first turn, Braviary goes for a Whirlwind, switching out Bacon into Nemesis. Sadly for me, this puts me in a really bad situation, and I'm kind of forced to sack Nemesis. Nemesis doesn't go out without a fight though, as I bring Braviary down to about a third before going down to a Brave Bird. With Nemesis down, I switch into Bacon, and I go for a Protect to regain a little bit of HP. Thankfully, on this same turn, Braviary's Tailwind runs out, and I'm able to go for a Rock Slide in the next turn, finishing off Braviary and leading into Kukui's final Pokemon, Magnezone. With Magnezone, I go for a Protect to regain a little bit of health before I end up going for a Rock Slide. It doesn't do much damage, but it does take him out of Sturdy, as I then get hit by a Flash Cannon, bringing me down to 21 HP. If Flash Cannon would have killed there, it definitely would have been game, but thankfully it's not, as I'm able to go for an Earthquake in the next turn, finishing off Magnezone and winning me my final battle of this run. That's it! Oh, let's go! Let's go, baby! Let's go! Oh my gosh! Let's go! Oh, that's game! Oh no! Oh my gosh! Oh, let's go! With that insane finish, that's the end of my run. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and with that being said, that was my attempt at a Pokemon Moon Hardcore Nuzlocke with only Dark-type Pokemon.